Hi there folks, welcome back to the IB and Andy Fishing channel. I hope you're doing really well. Please don't forget while you're here to hit that subs button. That way you'll be getting in touch with all of the news, all of the product reviews, all the fishing and all of the other stuff that IB and I get up to in this little corner of the internet. If you're already subbed, thank you very much for joining us again. We're coming straight back in with another Review Tuesday, and this is one we've been working on for a while. This is a product that when we first heard it was going to hit the market, we were desperate to get our hands on and find out just how good it could be. This is going to be a review of the Hardy Ultralite LL 10 for 8 0 to 2 weight fly rod. And straight away there, just from the name, there's an awful lot of data there to interpret. So we'll start at the name Ultralite LL, so Ultralite Light Line. This is a standalone range of rod that Hardy have done specifically for slightly more technical and tactical aspects of river fly fishing. Like I say, this is a 10 for 8 weight and it's a 0 to 2, and that's a very unusual length and rating, obviously. Designed specifically for modern European nymphing style techniques. The 0 to 2 rating, really, it's pretty nominal, obviously, with these methods, because it's very rare that they ever see any fly line. So the 0 to 2 is just to tell you it is a very light line rod, designed for light line techniques, probably more modern style European techniques than fly line. But if you wanted to use the AFTM rating, it is somewhere around about that. But as we know with European techniques, the AFTM ratings are pretty nominal because they never see a fly line. It's a range of rods completely designed and tested by Howard Croston, the world champion fly angler. So the question here is, what happens when you give a world champion fly fisher and rod designer the massive budget of a multinational corporation and say, go and make us the best possible range of tactical and technical river fly fishing rods you can make? Let's have a look. Before we'll even get to the rod, let's have a look at how it comes packaged. Really, really nice metal tube, nice heavyweight tube. You'd expect it with a rod of this price. Nice aluminium top to the tube, nice little touch inside, little cork Hardy symbol. Hardy are great at this kind of stuff, that consumer experience stuff. Even before you've seen the rod, it already feels pretty special. It means absolutely nothing to the fishing of it, but it's pretty cool. We'll keep going on that kind of vein. Pop it out, nice quality rod bag. You see there's no rod in here at the moment. Nice quality rod bag, little booklet for all the information on your warranty and stuff like that. Everything already feels super high quality, and we've not even looked at the rod yet. You kind of know while you're taking this out of the tube that it's going to be something pretty special. But we need to get on to that bit of pretty special stuff. And that is this bad boy. Obviously a 4-piece rod. It's very, very rare that you find anything other than 4-piece rods these days. I'm going to dive straight in though, because there are a huge number of features on this rod. They've squeezed an awful lot into 10 for 8 inches of carbon. And we're going to start down at this end, because obviously with most rods, most of the fun stuff is on the butt section. So straight away, first things first, the cork on this is absolutely fantastic. Some of the highest quality cork I've seen. Hardy describe it as quadruple A quality. I must admit I've never come across that before, but it is very, very good. I've had this for 5 months, and not only have I used it and IB's been using it, but actually I've also been guiding with it as well. There is not a blemish, not anything missing. There's no nicks, no knocks. It's spot on. For a rod of this price, you'd expect the finish to be very, very good. That cork is some of the best cork I've seen in a long time. Down at the bottom, little composite butt with a little Hardy logo kind of on the bottom of it. It's cool. It doesn't mean anything, but it does look pretty funky. Again, nice little touch. Reel seat, straight away you can tell this rod has been designed for modern tight line and European style nymphing techniques, because it is a down locker rather than an up locker. And basically what that does is it puts the reel further towards the butt section of the rod and just enables you, when you're fishing it, to be able to get the weight of the reel back here. Gives you better balance with these longer rods. That should be a feature on every single European nymphing rod that's ever been made. Really, really nice touches. So carbon insert inside there, super lightweight. Again, little feature there just shows you the rating of the rod. It's a double down locking seat, so there's one small and one larger screw, so your reel's not going to come loose at all, and you even get a little alignment dot so you know which part of the reel seat to face up when you're screwing your reel down onto it. The reel seat itself, incredibly solid. I haven't had to tighten a reel up on this once, and I've used it an awful lot. Coming back up above the cork, obviously, little keeper ring in there, you'd expect that. I can't believe how many modern rods don't have a keeper ring. Are you guys finding that as well? Because it really freaks me out. Why wouldn't you put a keeper ring on a fishing rod? Just on the logo there, you've got this kind of carbon pattern effect. Again, it looks pretty cool. Not too flash on the graphics here. Again, it doesn't need to be. Just the brand, sub-series, length and line rating, and something that tells you about the Cintrix NSX technology. I'm not an expert on these rod technologies. I imagine they're all roughly the same, just dressed up as different things. Essentially, what Hardy is saying with this NSX stuff is that it is a multi-modulus thing, more technical resins, all that kind of stuff. Basically, you're getting lighter, stronger rods, and that can't be a bad thing. Coming up from there, the first thing we've got after that is a little random whipping in the middle of nowhere here, and what that is a 50cm marker in between the butt section and that marker itself. So if you're fishing to Phipps rules, then you know how far you can space your flies apart. There are even inbuilt features to the blank itself. Now this is quite an unusual rod in that the blank is kind of semi-ground. It's not completely unground, it's not totally unfinished, but it is kind of semi-ground. It definitely has a kind of ridged effect to it still from where the carbon's been wrapped. And Hardy has said the reason for that is that when you're using mono leaders, so a French leader or a Spanish leader with very, very fine mono, once the rod gets wet or if it's rainy, the leaders can stick to the blank. But Hardy is saying with that little ridged effect on here, there's less chance of that happening, it's less likely to happen. Another big feature on here is that Hardy have used really, really expensive guides. So the first butt guide here is a Cerakoil. I'm just going to try and make sure you guys can see this. So all the guides on here are nickel titanium and they're bendy. And that's got a few different features. Nickel titanium is very, very light, which is great. You don't want to put really heavy guides on a good quality blank. These guides will actually flex as the rod bends, so you don't get any flat spots through the blank. Again, with a really good blank, the last thing you want to have is a load of little flat spots, so they are slightly bendy. The other thing is it means that if they're being banged around, they're less likely to get damaged. I will say this rod has been in the back of my car now for about 5 months, and anything that survives that long in the back of my car must be pretty durable. Just want to dive into the butt guide in particular a little bit further. So this Cerakoil here, so these nickel titanium bendy guides have been around for a while. Hardy had them on previous rod ranges, but they had them without the ceramic insert. And one complaint that some people had was they were a little bit noisy, it would vibrate, particularly with coated fly lines. But they didn't have the ceramic insert. By including the insert, they make everything a little bit slicker, a little bit less noisy, there's less vibration, a bit more sensitivity. It's just a nicer thing to fish with. The other thing I need to mention, I've mentioned this on other reviews in the past, is the distance between the reel and the butt guide. Again, this is a specific European style nymphing rod, and because of that, the butt guide is much closer to the reel. There's one stated reason for that, and there's another reason that I don't think gets talked about quite as much. So the stated reason for that is that when you're fishing, particularly with the mono leaders, you don't want a load of slack. And if the butt guide was right the way up here, there's a possibility you would have quite a lot of slack in between the butt guide and the reel. By bringing it down here, you reduce that. The other thing that I've noticed, and I haven't heard as many people talking about this, perhaps it's just something specific to me, I like to shoot line with these things, particularly with the French leader. I like to fish it a little bit longer. And sometimes if you don't shoot all the line that you've got out, it can be a bit of a pain having to reach up here to grab hold of it to be able to get in control and strip. Whereas if that butt guide is a bit further down here, again, I can shoot the line, and if I don't shoot it all, I can just grab hold of it there, and I haven't got to make any extra movements. I'm not going to reach right the way up the rod. A marginal gain, but if you do that, if you do like shooting line with these mono leaders, then it is going to be something you're going to watch out for. Again, it's a feature you'd expect to see on most European style nymphing rods these days. As you would kind of hope, there are sectional liner dots on every section, both male and female. Again, you would kind of expect that with a rod at this price point. One thing I didn't go over when I was showing you guys the tube is that every single joint has one of these little female joint ferrule stoppers. I'm not sure how necessary they are, but a really nice touch. Again, you just know you've got something with a little bit of quality. And actually, on the rod bag, while I've got it next to me, there is a little pocket built into the rod bag to keep your little stoppers in. It's a bit bougie, I must admit. Again, mine have just sat in there for the last 5 months because it's been rigged up the whole time. But if you're a bit worried about stuff getting damaged, it's nice to have those little stoppers there. Aside from the one stripper guide, almost all of the guides on the rest of the rod are single legs. Again, they're nickel titanium, they are the bendy ones, but they're single legs, nice and light, single whipping. It just means that there's no extra weight, there's no extra flat spots, there's no extra varnish. That is up until you get to the top of the tip section. We'll just have a quick look there. The last two guides there are snakes. And the reason for that is that when you're using the monofilament leaders, French leaders, Spanish leaders, very, very fine stuff, it can get a little bit tangled around the rod tip sometimes. It's more likely to untangle itself in mid-air because it can fly over these snakes, because it can slip over the top of the snakes. Whereas if you just went with single legs right the way up to the tip ring, it does tangle around these single legs a little bit more. Again, that's a feature that we're seeing on most modern nymphing rods now, to have at least one snake at the end, if not two. And if you're buying a Euro rod, specifically to use mono leaders with French and Spanish particularly, you're going to want to have a look out for that, because that is something that's pretty important. It will drive you bonkers if you keep getting tangled around the single legs. So with all the features that have been built onto this, you'd expect it to be pretty heavy, but actually it's exactly the opposite. 3.5 ounces, just about 100 grams. I've weighed it on our kitchen scales that aren't particularly accurate, and that is about right actually. I was measured just a bit over that, but only by a couple of grams. That is a very, very lightweight 10 foot 8 inch rod. This is over 10.5 feet. To get this down to 100 grams is absolutely incredible. Right, well that's all the kind of tech specs about it. That's all the physical stuff. In terms of fishing with it, as I said at the start, I've been using this for a long time. I've had this for 5 months. And I've used it with 3 main styles of European style nymphing. I haven't used any proper fly line on this at all because I just don't think anyone who's going to buy this rod is actually going to use fly line with it. So I've used it with the Spanish leader system, with a little help from my friend Damon at Living the Dream Fly Fishing, and a little bit of help from Howard Crossan actually. I went back and watched a few of his YouTube videos. I've used it with a long French leader, the one that we use in the Euro Nymphing box kit, the 9 meter French leader, and I've used it with a specialist Euro Nymphing fly line. Now you guys kind of know how I feel about Euro Nymphing fly lines. I just don't get it. Unless you're a competition angler and you have to use fly line in terms of staying within the rules, I just don't understand what the advantages are. I can't see any personally. And for a rod this light and this sensitive, I just don't get the idea of putting a load of saggy, heavy Euro Nymphing fly line through it. So of the 3, that was probably the one that I thought got the least out of the rod. In terms of the other 2, it fished them both absolutely brilliantly. In truth, this is the first time in a long time that I've picked up a fishing rod and used it for the first time and thought, actually, I need to get better at this technique to get the best out of this rod. For a long time, I've been using kind of low to mid-range Euro Nymphing rods and I was quite happy with them. And this was quite a big change to begin with. I will say, and IB and I both spoke about this early in the season, the first couple of times I used this, I actually bumped off quite a lot of fish. I lost quite a lot of fish very early in the fight. Because I'm used to Euro Nymphing rods that aren't quite as fast actioned as this is. It really surprised me how quick the action is, because you would assume a rod at this length is going to be a little bit moderate in the action, a little bit bendy. It really isn't, so whatever's in that Cintrix NXX stuff is probably working. So that took a little bit of getting used to, but once I had, oh crikey, what a piece of fishing kit this is. The big difference between this and most of the other kit that I'd used in the past was the sensitivity. I've tended to Euro Nymph by sight, by watching the indicator, a lot more than I have fish by feel. And using this actually has made me start to feel takes a little bit better. I get a lot more feedback through this blank than I had with any of the other Euro Nymphing rods I've fished before. I'm not saying I'm fishing totally by feel, but the sensitivity of the blank has definitely helped me put a few extra fish in the net. And that was particularly obvious actually using the Spanish leader system, the very, very fine level mono system. I was down to 016 mono, so pretty fine stuff using the Senpei materials. And I found at all kinds of ranges, actually I was getting loads more feedback than I was used to. If you're into fishing the Spanish leader, this is definitely going to be a rod you're going to want to have a look at because it appears to be absolutely perfect for that technique. In truth, it fished that long French leader pretty well as well. You guys know that tends to be my preferred technique. I like to be able to fish at slightly longer ranges. I really like using those long French leaders, and this handled it absolutely brilliantly as well. It's something I've mentioned before, but I really like to fish with a slightly longer European style nymphing rod than most people. I like the 10.5 and the 11 footers. I do an awful lot of fishing facing directly upstream, and if I'm particularly with the French leader throwing that thing upstream, there is a huge advantage to the longer rod because it will just pick that line and indicator up a little bit faster and you're in touch a little bit earlier. Whereas with the shorter rods, you kind of have to get that arm up a little bit higher, you know, things are a little bit harder work. So having that longer rod for me is a real advantage in most fishing situations. There are shorter rods in the range, but for me this 10 for 8 is just about the all-rounder. I also used it for a little bit of jig streamer fishing. Actually, I did that with a Euro Nymphing fly line because it was a pretty quiet day and nothing else was really working. That was really fun. I don't think it's where the rod is at its absolute best. It handled it absolutely fine. I was even able to shoot a little bit of line with the Euro Nymphing fly line. It's not what the rod's designed for, I don't think, but it did work. It was super fun. If you are in a situation where you do need to do something a little bit different like that, you'll be absolutely fine. The rod can cope with it. So this is the longest term review IB and I have ever done of a piece of fishing kit. And I'll be honest, we wanted to make sure we got this right because it's a really expensive fishing rod. It's the most expensive rod we've ever reviewed. And we wanted to make sure that we knew it perfectly well before we put this review out. I've spent a lot of time on the river with this thing, getting to know it. I haven't tested all the other Euro Nymphing rods on the market so far, so I don't know all of them as well as this one. But this is without doubt the best Euro Nymphing rod I've ever used. There are so many things that make this a great rod, but more than anything, the sensitivity of the blank is just mind-blowing. It's totally different to anything else I've ever fished before and gives you so many advantages, as I say, particularly with lighter flies, particularly when you're fishing longer distance. If you're into fishing Spanish-style leaders, you're going to absolutely love this thing. So you guys have probably already realised there is a huge about this rod that I really like. I genuinely think this is the best Euro Nymphing rod I've ever used. What I need to do here is find some things that I dislike. And that's pretty hard, to be honest. There is a lot going for this rod and not a lot against it. All the fixtures and fittings are perfect. They're exactly what you'd expect for a rod at this price point to do what the rod's designed to do. The finish is nigh on flawless. There is a tiny little spot of varnish on the hook keeper ring, and that is the only thing I can find wrong with this, and that is so ridiculously picky that I feel stupid mentioning it, but it's the only thing on the whole rod I could find that wasn't absolutely 110% perfect, so I'm going to throw it in there because otherwise I just sound like a Hardy rep. The other thing that a lot of people might not like about this rod is where it's made. I know this comes up often with Hardy. This is a Korean made rod. It's not a UK made rod. Hardy don't make a huge amount of fishing rods in the UK anymore. I know that's a bit of a problem for some people. I know that we like to think of this kind of legacy brand of Hardy as being UK made. It's probably not realistic in the 21st century. It costs so much to make stuff in the UK these days that it's just not realistic. Everything is designed and tested in the UK. Hardy have still got their base at Alnwick. They've now got a shop in Alnwick Town Centre, but it isn't a UK made rod, and I know that's going to bother some people in the comments section. It doesn't bother me personally. One result of that is that actually the third thing that I don't like about this rod, I like about it more than I would like about one of the other rods. I think that made sense. I hope you guys follow this. So because this is a rod that's been made in Korea rather than in the UK, it's actually significantly cheaper than its market rivals. So this is at least 10% cheaper than the equivalent Sage, the equivalent Orvis, or the equivalent Vision Euro Nymphing rod. At £749, it is still very, very expensive. This is a really expensive fishing rod that really has been made for people who really take Euro Nymphing very seriously. If you're one of those people and you're spending that kind of money, you have got to have a look at this. As I say, not only is it a fantastic rod, but it's also significantly cheaper than most of its market rivals. Now, obviously, for this price, you would expect it to have a pretty good warranty. Now, the little booklet that comes in the tube gives you details of the warranty. The one thing it doesn't say in there is how much it's going to cost. I think we all know these days there is a cost to warranty claims. I've had a look on the Hardy website, and even on the Hardy UK website, it lists the price as $75. So I must admit, as of right now, I'm not entirely sure whether it's $75 converted to British pounds or whether that's just going to be £75. As long as Hardy are warehousing and keeping in stock spares for all these rods, I don't think there's any problem with that at all. So there it is, the Hardy Ultralite LL 10 for 8 inch 0 to 2 weight. It's not often you find a rod on the market that is as specific to a particular style of fishing as this, but this is definitely aimed at those anglers who are fishing monofilament leaders, particularly the French and the Spanish style nymphing techniques. If you're into that kind of stuff, you're going to want to have a look at this. And yeah, at £750 it's a lot of money, but as I've already said, compared to some of its market rivals, it's actually quite a lot cheaper than the equivalent top-end rod, so there's even a saving to be made there. The big question is, if I was spending that kind of money on a fishing rod to do that kind of style, would I spend it on this rod? The answer is categorically yes. This is an excellent fishing rod. This isn't a blank that's just had some stuff strapped to it. This has clearly been well thought through, and both Howard and all the guys at Hardy who've been involved with the production and the testing have absolutely knocked it out of the park with this thing. This is a serious piece of kit for a serious European style nymphing angler. It's a big tick from me, big recommendation. If you want to find more information out about the rod, I will put some links in the description box below so you can go and check it out for yourself. In the meantime, all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for watching this review, really appreciate it. If you've used the rod or have one of the rods, please let us know what you think in the comment section below. If you've been thinking of buying a Euro Nymphing rod and this has maybe made you think that you want to have a look at one of these, again, let us know. We'll give you any more information if we've got it. And I will catch you guys again soon for some Euro Nymphing and stuff. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.